The first slap cracked across Maya's face like a whip, silencing the cafeteria. Jessica Langley smirked, already savoring her victory, until Maya's hand shot out like a viper, twisting Jessica's wrist with terrifying precision. "You want to see what happens next?" Maya whispered as Jessica whimpered in pain. "Something will happen in this story that you would have never imagined." From which country are you watching this unfold? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe now because this isn't just about a schoolyard fight. It's about a girl with a black belt who's about to uncover secrets more dangerous than any bully, where every victory comes with a hidden cost, and the real battle hasn't even begun yet. The bell rang, sharp and final, cutting through the chatter of students shuffling through the halls of Oak Ridge High. Locker doors slammed, sneakers squeaked against polished floors, and the usual hum of teenage drama filled the air. But today someone was different. Maya Carter stood just inside the front entrance, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her dark eyes scanning the sea of unfamiliar faces. She had been here before, this ritual of being the new girl, the outsider. It never got easier. The stares lingered a little too long, the whispers just loud enough to catch. She adjusted the straps of her bag, fingers tightening briefly before forcing herself to relax. Breathe in, breathe out. The cafeteria was the worst. It wasn't the noise or the way the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It was the way the room seemed to shift when she walked in. The way conversations dipped for just a second before resuming, louder, as if her presence demanded some kind of reaction. Maya kept her shoulders straight, her steps measured, as she made her way toward the lunch line. She didn't look at anyone. She didn't need to. She could feel them watching. Jessica Langley noticed her first. From her usual spot at the center table, surrounded by her usual crowd, Jessica's gaze locked onto Maya with a kind of bored curiosity that always came before trouble. She nudged Ashley beside her, nodding toward the new girl. "Who's that?" Ashley asked, already smirking. Jessica shrugged, but her eyes stayed fixed. "Dunno, but she looks like she thinks she's something special." Maya picked up her tray, ignoring the way the lunch lady eyed her with vague disinterest before slopping a serving of something vaguely resembling mac and cheese onto her plate. She turned, scanning the room for an empty seat. There were a few, at the edges, near the quiet kids, the ones who kept their heads down. But before she could move, Jessica was up, weaving through the tables with practiced ease. It happened fast. A sudden step into Maya's path. A sharp, exaggerated gasp. Then the impact. Just enough to make it look like an accident. The tray tipped. The food splattered. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Maya's hands clenched at her sides. Jessica blinked, feigning innocence. "Oops. You should really watch where you're going." A beat of silence. Maya exhaled slowly, forcing her fingers to uncurl. She bent down, picking up the tray with deliberate calm. Jessica wasn't done. With a laugh, she raised her hand. The slap cracked through the air. Maya's head snapped to the side. The sting bloomed across her cheek, sharp and sudden. The laughter around them grew louder, bolder. Jessica grinned, turning to her friends. "See? I told you she was." Maya moved. One moment, Jessica was smirking. The next, her wrist was caught in a grip like iron, twisted just enough to make her gasp. Maya's other hand pressed against Jessica's shoulder, guiding her down with terrifying ease until Jessica's knees hit the floor. The laughter died. Maya leaned in, her voice low, steady. "Touch me again, and I won't stop at a warning." Jessica's face burned red. She yanked her arm back, scrambling to her feet. You freak." Maya didn't react. She just straightened, rolling her shoulders once before turning away. The whispers started immediately. "Did you see that? She took Jessica down like it was nothing. Who the hell is she?" Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to, because by the end of the day, everyone knew. Maya Carter wasn't just the new girl. She was a black belt, and Jessica had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The rest of the school day passed in a blur of hushed whispers and sideways glances. Maya kept her head down, her expression unreadable, but she could feel the weight of every stare burning into her back as she walked from class to class. The story had spread faster than she expected. By third period, even the teachers were giving her curious looks. She slid into her seat in the back of Mr. Harris's history class, ignoring the way the chatter dipped for a second before resuming. A folded note landed on her desk. She stared at it for a moment before picking it up, unfolding it carefully. Asterisk, you're dead. Asterisk. No signature. Not that she needed one. Maya crumpled the note in her palm, dropping it into the trash as she walked past on her way out when the bell rang. Jessica Langley wasn't used to losing. She sat in the bathroom during fourth period, gripping the edges of the sink as she stared at her reflection. Her wrist still ached where Maya had twisted it, a dull throb that refused to fade. The humiliation was worse. She could still hear the whispers, the laughter. Not at Maya, but at her. Jessica Langley, the queen of Oak Ridge High, had been put on her knees in front of everyone. Ashley leaned against the stall door, arms crossed. You okay? Jessica's grip tightened on the sink. Do I look okay? Ashley hesitated. We'll get her back. She can't just. I don't care what she can or can't do, Jessica snapped. She's done. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts before stopping at a name she hadn't messaged in months. Derek. Her older brother. The one person she knew wouldn't hesitate to put Maya in her place. Maya's house was quiet when she got home. Too quiet. She dropped her backpack by the door, towing off her shoes before padding into the kitchen. Her father was already there, leaning against the counter with a mug of coffee in hand. He didn't look up when she entered, but she knew he'd been waiting. Rough day? He asked. Maya shrugged, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. Same as always. Her father finally looked at her, his dark eyes sharp. That's not what I heard. She stiffened. What did you hear? That my daughter decided to show off her skills on the first day. Maya's jaw tightened. She hit me first. And you couldn't walk away? I did walk away, Maya said, her voice low. After. Her father sighed, setting his mug down. You know the rules, Maya. No fighting unless there's no other choice. There wasn't another choice. Then you better be ready for what comes next. Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to, because she already knew. Jessica wasn't going to let this go. The next morning, the atmosphere at school was different. Maya could feel it the second she stepped through the doors. The whispers were louder, the stares more intense. People moved out of her way as she walked, some with respect, others with fear. Jessica was waiting for her at the lockers. She wasn't alone. Derek Langley stood beside her, his arms crossed over his broad chest. He was taller than Maya remembered from the few times she'd seen him around town, his muscles straining against his shirt sleeves. He smirked when he saw her, nudging Jessica. This her? Jessica nodded, her eyes gleaming with triumph. This is her. Maya didn't stop walking. She didn't even slow down. Derek stepped into her path. Hey, new girl. We need to talk. Maya looked up at him, her expression blank. Move. Derek's smirk widened. Or what? Maya didn't blink. Or you'll regret it. The hallway went silent. Derek laughed, shaking his head. You've got some mouth on you, you know that? Maya didn't respond. Derek's smile faded. Listen, I don't hit girls, but you put your hands on my sister, so... Maya moved. Fast. Derek barely had time to react before her foot hooked behind his ankle, her palm slamming into his chest. He hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of him. The hallway erupted. Maya didn't wait to see his reaction. She stepped over him, grabbing her books from her locker like nothing had happened. Jessica's face was pale. Derek sat up, his expression a mix of shock and fury. Maya shut her locker, turning to face them. Next time, she said quietly, I won't go easy on you. Then she walked away. By lunch, the entire school knew. Derek Langley, the star linebacker, had been taken down by the new girl in seconds. Jessica sat alone at her usual table, her usual crowd suddenly nowhere to be found. Maya ate in silence, ignoring the stares. But for the first time since she'd arrived at Oak Ridge High, no one dared to approach her. The fallout from Derek's humiliation spread faster than Jessica could control. By the end of the day, the social hierarchy of Oak Ridge High had shifted in ways no one expected. Maya's phone buzzed as she walked home. An unknown number. Asterisk, You're gonna pay for what you did. Asterisk. She deleted the message without responding. Jessica wasn't about to let this go. She sat in Derek's car after school, her fingers tapping impatiently against the dashboard. We can't just let her get away with this. Derek's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I'm not done with her. Jessica pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos until she found one of Maya from earlier in the week. Then we hit her where it hurts. Derek glanced at the photo. What are you thinking? Jessica smiled. Everyone has a weakness. We just have to find hers. Maya's father was waiting for her when she got home. You're late, he said, his arms crossed. Maya dropped her bag by the door. Got held up. Her father's gaze was sharp. By who? Maya hesitated. No one important. Her father sighed. Maya, if this is going to be a problem. It won't be. You can't keep fighting everyone who looks at you wrong. Maya's jaw tightened. I didn't start it. But you finished it. Maya didn't answer. Her father's voice softened. Just be careful. Maya nodded, heading upstairs to her room. She knew this wasn't over. Jessica and Derek weren't the type to back down. And neither was she. The next morning, Maya's walk to school felt different. The autumn air carried a sharp chill that matched the tension coiled in her shoulders. She could feel eyes on her from the moment she turned onto campus. Not just the usual curious glances, but something heavier, more calculating. A group of junior boys abruptly stopped their conversation as she passed, one of them actually taking a step back. The whispers followed her down the hallway. Took down Derek Langley. Black belt or something. Crazy how she just... Maya kept her expression neutral, but her fingers tightened around the strap of her backpack. This was exactly what she'd wanted to avoid. Being noticed. Being known. At her last school, it had taken months before anyone realized she trained in martial arts. Here. 3 days. She rounded the corner to her locker and stopped dead. Someone had spray-painted "Freak" across the metal in jagged red letters. Her books were scattered across the floor, pages bent, covers scuffed with shoe prints. A crowd had gathered nearby, pretending not to watch while clearly waiting for her reaction. Maya took a slow breath through her nose. The scent of fresh paint mixed with the industrial cleaner from the janitor's closet down the hall. She knelt and began gathering her books, methodically smoothing each crumpled page. Need some help? The voice came from her left. Maya looked up to see a lanky boy with dark curls and a faded NASA t-shirt holding out her physics textbook. His name tag read Ethan, library assistant, in careful print. I got it, Maya said automatically. Ethan crouched beside her anyway, retrieving a notebook with water damage along the edges. Jessica's crew hit the library books too, he said quietly. Mr. Hendricks is pissed, says if they catch who did it. Maya examined the ruined notebook. Every page was soaked through, the ink blurred beyond recognition. Her meticulous notes for AP Lit, gone. A hot spike of anger flashed through her chest, but she forced it down. This was exactly what they wanted. Thanks, she said, taking the notebook from Ethan. Their fingers brushed briefly, and she noticed he had calluses on his fingertips. Guitar player, maybe. The warning bell rang overhead. The spectators dispersed, disappointed by the lack of drama. Ethan stood, hesitating for a moment before saying, "There's a study group in the library after school. If you need to rewrite those notes." Maya looked up at him, really looked for the first time. His eyes were an unusual shade of hazel, more green than brown, and there was no pity in them, just quiet understanding. "I'll think about it," she said. As Ethan walked away, Maya noticed Jessica watching from across the hallway, her lips pressed into a thin line. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. A challenge, a warning. This wasn't over. The day passed in a tense blur. Teachers seemed suddenly very interested in calling on Maya during class. Her English teacher made a pointed comment about respecting school property, while looking directly at her during attendance. In gym, none of the girls would partner with her for volleyball drills until the coach intervened. At lunch, Maya bypassed the cafeteria entirely, heading instead for the empty band practice room she discovered during her first day. The space smelled of old sheet music and valve oil, The chairs scattered haphazardly as if the musicians had just stepped out. She settled in the far corner, pulling out her slightly damp sandwich. The door creaked open. "Figured I'd find you here." Ethan stood in the doorway, balancing a tray from the cafeteria and 2 cartons of chocolate milk. "Brought reinforcements," he said, holding up one of the milks. "Heard they dumped your lunch yesterday." Maya eyed him warily. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan set the tray on a nearby music stand and shrugged. "Let's just say I know what it's like to be Jessica Langley's project." He rolled up his sleeve to reveal a faint scar along his forearm. "Freshman year, I corrected her in history class. She accidentally spilled a beaker of hydrochloric acid during chem lab the next day." Maya's stomach twisted. She'd assumed the bullying was personal, about her being new, about being one of the few black students at Oak Ridge. But maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe Jessica just hated anyone who didn't bow down. They ate in comfortable silence, the only sound the distant cheers from the soccer field outside. Ethan turned out to be easy company. He didn't pry or fill the quiet with unnecessary chatter. When the bell rang, he gathered their trash without being asked. "Library after school," he reminded her on his way out. "Back corner table. We've got the good chairs." Maya nodded, a small, unexpected warmth blooming in her chest. Maybe Oak Ridge wouldn't be entirely terrible. The feeling lasted exactly until final bell. As Maya approached her locker to grab her things, she noticed the crowd first, a cluster of students gathered in a loose semicircle, phones out. Then she saw what they were filming. Jessica stood in front of Maya's defaced locker, holding something in her hands. It took Maya a second to recognize the framed photo, her father at her last tournament, beaming with pride as she held up her first-place trophy. The photo she kept tucked in her locker for bad days. "Ah, look at little Maya playing karate," Jessica cooed, waving the photo like a trophy of her own. "Daddy must be so proud of his little dash." Maya moved before she could think. One moment Jessica was smirking, the next she was pinned against the lockers, Maya's forearm pressed against her throat. The photo fluttered to the ground, the glass shattering on impact. "You listen to me," Maya hissed, her voice low enough that only Jessica could hear. "You come after me again, I won't stop at embarrassing you. You understand?" Jessica's eyes were wide, her breath coming in short gasps. For the first time since Maya had met her, the queen of Oak Ridge High looked genuinely afraid. A teacher's voice cut through the murmuring crowd. "Ms. Carter, my office now." Maya stepped back, her pulse roaring in her ears. As she followed the teacher down the hall, she caught Ethan's eye in the crowd. Instead of the judgment she expected, he gave her the smallest nod of approval before disappearing into the throng of students. The principal's lecture about appropriate behavior and zero-tolerance policies washed over her like white noise. Maya sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, nodding at all the right places while her mind raced ahead. Because one thing had become crystal clear today: playing defense wasn't working. If she wanted this to stop, she'd need to go on the offensive. And Maya Carter knew how to fight. The fluorescent lights in the principal's office buzzed like trapped insects. Maya sat stiff-backed in the hard plastic chair, her fingers laced together so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. Principal Whitaker's voice droned on, his words blending together into meaningless noise. Unacceptable behavior. School policy. Suspension considered. Maya barely heard him. Her mind was still back in the hallway, replaying the moment her forearm pressed into Jessica's throat. The way Jessica's eyes had widened, not with anger, but with real, genuine fear. Maya had seen that look before, on the mat, in tournaments. It was the look of someone who knew they were outmatched. And yet, here she was, the one in trouble. Asterisk. "Do you have anything to say for yourself, Maya?" Asterisk. She lifted her chin. "She destroyed my property. She was holding a personal photo of my family." Whitaker sighed, rubbing his temples. "That doesn't excuse physical violence." Maya wanted to laugh. Violence? She hadn't even hit Jessica. A real strike would have put her in the hospital. But she kept her mouth shut. Arguing wouldn't change anything. The verdict came down. 3 days of in-school suspension. No after-school activities. No library. No training. Perfect. #### the aftermath. News of the confrontation spread faster than Maya expected. By the time she left the office, the story had already twisted into something wilder. Maya choked Jessica out in the hallway. Maya threatened to break her arm. Maya's some kind of underground fighter. She could feel the shift in the school's energy. The stares weren't just curious now. They were wary, respectful. Even the teachers gave her a wider berth, like they weren't sure what to do with a student who didn't cower under Jessica's reign. Ethan found her at her locker after the final bell. "You okay?" he asked, keeping his voice low. Maya shrugged, shoving books into her bag with more force than necessary. "Just peachy." Ethan leaned against the locker beside hers, his expression unreadable. "Jessica's dad called the school board. Whitaker's under pressure to expel you." That got her attention. She froze, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. "What?" Ethan nodded. "Her family's got connections. Money. If they push hard enough." Maya exhaled sharply through her nose. Of course. It was never just about a slap or a shove. It was about power. And Jessica wasn't used to losing. "What are you going to do?" Ethan asked. Maya zipped her bag with a sharp tug. "Fight back." ###the plan. Maya's father was waiting in the driveway when she got home. He leaned against his truck, arms crossed, his expression grim. "Got a call from your principal," he said without preamble. Maya didn't flinch. "I figured." Her father studied her for a long moment before sighing. "Get in the car." They drove in silence to the old warehouse on the edge of town, the one her father had converted into a makeshift dojo after they moved. The mats were worn, the mirrors cracked in one corner, but it was theirs. Maya changed into her GI without a word. When she stepped onto the mat, her father was already waiting, his stance wide, his hands loose at his sides. "Show me," he said. Maya didn't hesitate. She struck fast, a low sweep followed by a sharp elbow strike. Her father blocked both, countering with a palm strike that she barely dodged. They moved in sync, the rhythm of their sparring as familiar as breathing. After 10 minutes, her father called a halt. Sweat dripped down Maya's temples, her breath coming in controlled bursts. "You're holding back," her father said. Maya wiped her forearm across her forehead. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Her father's expression darkened. "And that's why you're losing." Maya stiffened. "This isn't a tournament, Maya. There are no rules here. No referees. That girl, she won't stop. Not until she breaks you." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "So you have to ask yourself, are you going to let her?" Maya met his gaze. For the first time in weeks, the fire in her chest burned bright. "No." Her father nodded, satisfied. "Then we train." ###the trap. Jessica made her move 2 days later. Maya was heading to her locker before first period when she heard the whispers. A group of girls clustered around Jessica, their voices hushed but excited. "She's gonna do it today." After school, near the bleachers. Derek's bringing his friends. Maya kept walking, her face blank. Oh, they were planning an ambush. Predictable. Ethan caught up to her at lunch, his face pale. "You need to skip last period," he said without greeting. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because Jessica's got Derek and 4 of his football buddies waiting for you by the field. They're talking about—" He broke off, swallowing hard. "It's bad, Maya." Maya took a slow bite of her sandwich. "I know." Ethan stared at her. "You what?" "I heard them this morning." She set the sandwich down, wiping her hands. "They're not subtle." Ethan's eyes widened. "You're not seriously going to?" Maya stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Tell me something, Ethan. You ever seen a wolf take down a deer?" Ethan blinked. "What?" "The deer runs. The wolf chases. But the wolf? It doesn't attack from behind." Maya adjusted the strap of her bag, her voice calm. "It cuts them off at the pass." And with that, she walked away. ### the fight. The football field was empty after school. the bleachers casting long shadows across the grass. Maya stood at the center of the field, her hands loose at her sides. She didn't have to wait long. Jessica appeared first, flanked by Ashley and two other girls. Derek and his friends followed, their expressions a mix of amusement and anticipation. "You actually showed up," Jessica said, smirking. Maya didn't smile. "You wanted my attention. You've got it." Derek cracked his knuckles. "This won't take long." Maya shifted her stance, just slightly. "No," she agreed. "It won't." Then it began. Derek lunged first, his fist swinging in a wide, telegraph punch. Maya sidestepped, her elbows snapping up to catch him in the ribs. He grunted, stumbling, but his friends were already moving. A tackle from the left. Maya dropped low, sweeping the legs out from under him. A grab from behind. She twisted, using his momentum to flip him onto his back. Jessica's smirk faded as one by one, Derek's friends hit the ground. Maya wasn't flashy. She wasn't showy. Every movement was efficient, precise. A strike to the knee here. A pressure point there. Within minutes, 3 boys were groaning on the grass, clutching various injuries. Derek was the last one standing. His nose was bleeding, his breath coming in ragged gasps. You're not." Maya stepped forward. "I'm not what? Human." She shook her head. "I tried walking away. You didn't let me." Derek swung again. This time, Maya didn't hold back. Her fist connected with his jaw with a sharp crack. Derek dropped like a sack of bricks, out cold. Silence. Jessica stood frozen, her face bloodless. Maya turned to her slowly. "Your move." Jessica ran. #### the aftermath. The rumors started before Maya even left the field. Maya took down 5 guys by herself. Maya's some kind of special forces. Maya's not someone you mess with. By Monday, the school was different. Jessica didn't look at her. Derek ate lunch in the nurse's office. And the whispers? They weren't about Maya anymore. They were to her. Asterisk. "Hey Maya, can you show me how you did that throw?" Asterisk. Asterisk. "Maya, you should try out for the wrestling team." Asterisk. "Maya, can you?" She ignored them all. Because this wasn't about winning. It wasn't about being feared. It was about respect. And for the first time since she'd arrived at Oak Ridge High, Maya Carter finally had it. The air in Oak Ridge High had shifted. Maya felt at the moment she walked through the front doors Monday morning. The whispers that had once followed her like shadows now parted before her, hushed and reverent. Students she'd never spoken to nodded as she passed. A freshman actually held the door open for her. Jessica Langley was nowhere to be seen. Ethan fell into step beside Maya at her locker, his usual nervous energy replaced by something more subdued. "You've created a monster," he murmured, nodding toward the growing crowd of students lingering nearby, watching Maya with something like awe. Maya shoved her history book into her bag with more force than necessary. "I didn't do anything." Ethan gave her a look. "You took down Derek Langley and 4 of his friends. In public. That's not nothing." A muscle in Maya's jaw twitched. She could still feel the impact of her knuckles against Derek's jaw, the way his body had crumpled to the grass. She hadn't meant to hit him that hard. The warning bell rang overhead. Ethan hesitated before saying quietly, "Jessica's not here today. Or yesterday. Rumor is her parents pulled her out after what happened." Maya's fingers stilled on her locker combination. That wasn't what she'd expected. She'd thought Jessica would come back angrier, more determined to prove herself. "Not this." "Good," Maya said finally, slamming her locker shut. "Maybe now she'll leave me alone." But even as she said it, something uneasy settled in her gut. Because people like Jessica Langley didn't just disappear. They regrouped. They came back harder. And Maya had seen the look in Jessica's eyes before she ran. That wasn't surrender. That was calculation. #### the silence. 3 days passed with no sign of Jessica. Derek returned to school with a splint on his nose and a newfound avoidance of Maya's hallway. His friends stopped meeting her eyes entirely. The teachers watched her with wary curiosity, like she was a puzzle they couldn't quite solve. It should have felt like victory. Instead, the silence set Maya's teeth on edge. She found herself glancing over her shoulder more often, her body coiled tight even when there was no visible threat. Her father noticed at dinner Thursday night, setting down his fork with a quiet clink. "You're waiting for the other shoe to drop," he observed. Maya stabbed at her mashed potatoes. "It's too quiet." Her father nodded, his expression grim. The calm before the storm. Maya's phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. "You think you won?" The message disappeared before she could show her father. ##### the revelation. Ethan cornered Maya in the library after school, his usual calm replaced by palpable tension. He dragged her to the most secluded study corral, checking over his shoulder before speaking. "We need to talk." "About Jessica." Maya leaned back, crossing her arms. "What about her?" Ethan lowered his voice. "Her family isn't just rich, Maya. They're connected. Her uncle's on the school board. Her grandfather was mayor. And Derek, he swallowed hard. He's not just some football player. He's been arrested twice for assault. The charges disappeared both times." Maya's stomach dropped. "You're saying they're untouchable." "I'm saying you humiliated them in front of the entire school." Ethan ran a hand through his curls, his fingers trembling slightly. "People like that don't just let that go." Maya studied Ethan's face, the tightness around his eyes, the way his knee bounced under the table. This wasn't just school gossip. He was genuinely scared. "Why are you telling me this?" Ethan met her gaze. "Because someone needs to warn you before it's too late." #### the setup. The trap sprung Friday afternoon. Maya was leaving her last period chemistry class when Principal Whitaker's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ms. Maya Carter, please report to the main office immediately." Every head in the hallway turned toward her. Maya's pulse kicked up, her instincts screaming danger. But she kept her face blank, adjusting her backpack as she turned toward the office. Whitaker was waiting with 2 police officers. "Maya," he said, his voice oddly gentle, "these officers need to ask you some questions." The taller officer stepped forward. "We've received a report that you've been making threats against another student, Jessica Langley." Maya blinked. "What?" The officer pulled out a printed sheet of paper, a social media screenshot. Maya's face, photoshopped onto some meme about violence. The caption read, "Coming for you next, Jay." "That's not me," Maya said immediately. "I don't even." "Jessica's parents are pressing charges," Whitaker interrupted. "Given your history of violence, the school has no choice but to suspend you pending investigation." Maya's hands curled into fists at her sides. This was Jessica's move. Not a fistfight, not some hallway ambush. A calculated strike designed to hit Maya where it hurt most. Her record. Her future. The officers exchanged glances. "We'll need you to come down to the station for questioning." Maya's mind raced. She could fight this, prove it was fake, get Ethan to vouch for her. But one look at Whitaker's resigned expression told her the truth. It didn't matter. The Langleys had already won. "Can I call my father?" she asked quietly. The officer nodded. As Maya pulled out her phone, she caught sight of Jessica's friend Ashley lurking near the office door. Her phone pointed directly at Maya. Recording. Of course. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about humiliation. #### the fallout. The police station was exactly as awful as Maya expected. They took her phone, made her sit in a cold, windowless room for 2 hours before questioning her. The detective's tone was polite but firm, his questions designed to trip her up. Asterisk. "You admit you assaulted Derek Langley?" Asterisk. Asterisk. "You were angry at Jessica, weren't you?" Asterisk. Asterisk. "Where were you last night between 8 and 10 p.m.? Asterisk. Her father arrived just as the detective was asking about her martial arts training, his face thunderous. Within minutes, he'd shut down the interrogation, demanding a lawyer. They released her with a warning, but the damage was done. By the time Maya got home, the video was already trending on Snapchat. Asterisk. Oak Ridge karate girl arrested for threats. Asterisk. The comments were worse. Always knew she was unhinged. Who brings fists to a high school? She's gonna get what's coming. Maya turned off her phone. Her father sat across from her at the kitchen table, his expression unreadable. "We'll fight this," he said finally. "Get a lawyer. Prove it's fake." Maya stared at her hands. They were shaking. "It doesn't matter. Everyone already believes it." For the first time in years, her father looked helpless. "What do you want to do?" Maya thought about Jessica's smug smile as the officers led her away. Thought about Ethan's warning. About the way the entire school had turned on her in an instant. She looked up, her voice steady. "I want to finish this." ####the visit. Jessica's house was exactly what Maya expected. A sprawling McMansion on the richest hill in Oak Ridge. The kind of place with a gate and a security camera. Maya didn't bother with the front door. She scaled the side fence easily, landing soundlessly in the backyard. The pool lights were on, casting eerie blue reflections across the patio. Jessica sat alone at the outdoor table, her phone glowing in her hands. She didn't look up as Maya approached. "Knew you'd come," Jessica said, her voice oddly calm. Maya stopped just outside arm's reach. "You set me up." Jessica finally looked up, her smile sharp. "And? You think anyone's going to believe you over me?" She tapped her phone screen. "I've already got 10,000 views on that video. By Monday, you'll be the psycho who threatened me. No one will care if it's true." Maya studied Jessica's face, the triumph in her eyes, the absolute certainty that she'd won. That Maya couldn't touch her. "You're right," Maya said quietly. "No one will believe me." Then she moved. One hand snatched Jessica's phone. The other yanked her up by the collar, dragging her toward the pool's edge. Jessica's shriek cut off as Maya shoved the phone in her face. "Smile," Maya hissed. "You're live." Jessica's eyes widened as she saw the recording light, the Instagram live feed with hundreds of viewers already pouring in. You can't." Maya leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tell them the truth, or I show everyone what happens when you push me too far." For one endless second, Jessica hesitated. Then, with Maya's grip tightening on her shirt, she broke. "It was fake," Jessica blurted to the camera, her voice shaking. "The threats, I made them up. Derek started it, Maya didn't hear the rest. She dropped Jessica's phone into the pool, watching the live feed cut out in a burst of static. Jessica gasped. "Do you have any idea what you've just—" Maya turned away. "Have fun explaining that to your followers." She was over the fence before Jessica could respond. ###the aftermath. The video went viral, of course. Jessica's panicked confession spread faster than her fake accusations ever had. By morning, the police had dropped the investigation. The school issued a vague statement about misunderstandings. And Jessica Langley? Transferred to a private school in another district. Maya returned to Oak Ridge High the following Monday to a strange new reality. The whispers were still there, but now they carried a different tone. Respect. Fear, maybe. Ethan met her at her locker, his grin brighter than she'd ever seen it. "You're a legend, you know that?" Maya shrugged, but something warm settled in her chest. It wasn't just about winning. It was about knowing she hadn't backed down. As she walked to class, a freshman girl with braces stopped her in the hallway. Maya." The girl held out a flyer with trembling hands. "The Women's Self-Defense Club. We were wondering if you'd maybe teach us sometime?" Maya looked at the flyer, then at the hopeful expression on the girl's face. For the first time in months, she smiled. "Yeah," she said. "I think I can do that." The first week after Jessica's downfall passed in a surreal haze. Maya walked the halls of Oak Ridge High like a ghost who'd suddenly become solid. People looked at her now, really looked at her, but no one quite knew how to approach. The freshmen whispered as she passed. The football team gave her a wide berth. Even the teacher seemed unsure how to treat the girl who'd taken down Oak Ridge's golden family and walked away unscathed. Ethan, at least, remained unchanged. He fell into step beside her after third period, tossing her an apple from the cafeteria with his usual half-smile. "You're trending again," he said, nodding toward a group of girls watching them from across the hall. Maya caught the apple without looking. "What now?" "Someone dug up your old tournament videos." There's a 3-minute clip of you sweeping some poor kid in a blue GI that's got like 500,000 views. Ethan's grin widened. They're calling you the Oak Ridge assassin. Maya nearly choked on her bite of apple. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Hey, I don't make the rules. Ethan's expression sobered as they rounded the corner toward the library. Seriously though, you good? After everything. Maya studied the worn linoleum underfoot. Was she good? She'd won. Jessica was gone. The charges were dropped. But something restless still coiled beneath her ribs, a tension that hadn't eased with victory. I don't know, she admitted quietly. Feels like it's not really over. Ethan didn't argue. That's what she liked about him. He never lied to make her feel better. #### the invitation. The envelope appeared in Maya's locker on Wednesday. Thick, cream-colored paper with her name written in precise calligraphy. No return address. Inside was a single black card embossed with silver lettering. The Midnight Tournament. Eclipse Club, Saturday 11 p.m. Bring your gloves. Maya's fingers tingled where they gripped the card. She'd heard whispers of the Eclipse Club before, an underground fight ring that moved locations every month, where amateurs and pros alike competed in no-holds-barred matches. Illegal, obviously. Incredibly dangerous. And exactly the kind of challenge she'd been craving. She showed the card to her father that night over dinner, watching his face carefully as he read it. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around his fork. You're not going. Maya stirred her rice. I didn't say I was. Her father set the card down with deliberate calm. These tournaments aren't like your dojo matches, Maya. No rules. No referees. People get hurt. People get hurt in sanctioned matches too. Not like this. He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. These fighters don't stop when someone taps out. They don't care about points or technique. They fight to prove something. Maya met his gaze. And what if I need to prove something too? The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken history. Her father exhaled sharply through his nose and stood, taking his plate to the sink without another word. But Maya already knew she'd be going. #### the warning. Ethan found her at lunch the next day, his usual calm replaced by palpable tension. He dropped into the seat across from her, his voice low. You got one too, didn't you? Maya paused with her water bottle halfway to her lips. What? The black card. Ethan reached into his jacket and produced an identical envelope, though his name was written in the same elegant script. They don't just invite anyone, Maya. This is... Wait. Maya's brow furrowed. You fight. Ethan's cheeks colored slightly. Boxing. Since I was 12. But that's not the point. He leaned in closer. The Eclipse Club isn't just some underground ring. It's a proving ground. People get scouted there, for private security, for other things. Dangerous things. Maya studied his face, the tightness around his eyes, the way his fingers tapped an uneven rhythm against the table. This wasn't just nerves. Ethan was scared. Why are you telling me this? Because I know you're going to go. Ethan held her gaze. And if you're going, someone should have your back. #### the preparation. Maya trained harder than she ever had before. Every morning before school, she ran 5 miles with ankle weights. Every afternoon, she drilled combinations until her muscles burned. And every night, she sparred with her father in their makeshift dojo, pushing herself beyond the clean, controlled techniques of tournament karate into something rougher, more visceral. Her father didn't speak about the invitation again, but his training took on a new intensity. He taught her pressure points most masters wouldn't show their top students. Showed her how to break holds that weren't legal in any sanctioned match. On Friday night, as she iced her bruised forearms, he finally broke his silence. You'll wear the mouth guard, he said, not looking up from wrapping his own knuckles. Maya blinked. What? And the compression shirt under your GI. No head strikes unless absolutely necessary. Her father met her eyes then, and the raw concern in his gaze stole her breath. You come home, Maya. No matter what. Maya swallowed hard and nodded. #### the Eclipse Club. The address on the card led them to an abandoned textile mill on the outskirts of town. No signs marked the entrance, but the line of expensive cars parked haphazardly in the overgrown lot told Maya they were in the right place. Ethan shifted nervously beside her as they approached the rusted service entrance. He dressed all in black, his usual curls hidden under a beanie. "Last chance to bail," he muttered. Maya adjusted the straps of her duffel. "You can wait in the car." Ethan scowled but followed her inside. The mill's interior had been transformed. Industrial lights hung from the high ceilings, casting eerie blue-white illumination over a massive fighting ring constructed in the center of the space. The bleachers surrounding it were already packed with spectators. Men in tailored suits, women in evening gowns sipping champagne, all watching with a hungry anticipation of predators circling prey. A man in a silver vest checked their names off a tablet before directing them toward the fighters' area. Maya's skin prickled as they walked. She could feel dozens of eyes tracking their progress, sizing them up. The fighters' lounge was a converted office space, the air thick with the scent of liniment and adrenaline. Competitors stretched, wrapped their hands, or sat with headphones in, lost in their pre-fight rituals. Maya recognized a few faces from local dojos, but most were strangers, hulking men with scarred knuckles, wiry women with cold eyes. Then she saw him. Derek Langley stood near the far wall, his nose still slightly crooked from where Maya had broken it. He was shirtless, his massive frame covered in swirling tattoos that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. When their eyes met, he smirked and made a show of cracking his neck. Ethan sucked in a sharp breath. "Oh, this is bad." Maya's pulse kicked up, but she kept her expression neutral. "It's fine." A woman's voice crackled over the PA system. "Fighters to the staging area. First match begins in 5 minutes." Derek pushed off the wall and sauntered toward them, stopping just close enough that Maya could smell the whiskey on his breath. "Been waiting for this," he murmured, his smile all teeth. "No teachers here. No cops. Just you and me and however long I decide to make it hurt." Maya didn't flinch. "Looking forward to it." As Derek walked away, Ethan grabbed her arm. "Maya, you can't." "I know." Maya met his gaze evenly. "But I'm going to anyway. The fight." They called her name third. Maya stepped into the ring to a mix of cheers and jeers, the crowd clearly divided on the newcomer. The referee, if you could call the hulking bouncer type that, gave her a cursory pat down before waving her forward. Her opponent was a mountain of a man named Vasily, with a shaved head and hands like sledgehammers. He grinned when he saw her, saying something in Russian that made the crowd laugh. Maya tuned it out. She rolled her shoulders, settling into her stance as the ref gave the world's most perfunctory rules explanation. "No eye gouging. No biting. Everything else is fair game. Fight ends by knockout, submission, or tap out." He looked between them. "Ready?" Maya nodded. Vasily cracked his knuckles. "Fight!" The first strike came faster than Maya expected. A brutal right hook aimed at her temple. She barely slipped it, feeling the wind of its passage ruffle her hair. Vasily pressed forward, his bulk making the ring shake with each step. Maya dodged another punch, then another, her body moving on instinct. Vasily was strong, but slow, predictable. She waited for her opening, a slight overextension on his next jab, and struck. Her front kick landed square in his solar plexus. Vasily's breath left him in a whoosh, his face going slack with shock. Maya didn't let up. She pivoted into a spinning back kick that sent 280 pounds of muscle crashing into the ropes. The crowd erupted. Vasily staggered up, his face dark with rage. He charged, swinging wildly. Maya ducked under a haymaker and drove her elbow into his kidney. Vasily roared, twisting to grab her. Maya saw her opening. She dropped low, sweeping his legs out from under him with a perfectly timed crescent kick. Vasily hit the mat hard, the impact shaking the ring. Before he could recover, Maya locked in a rear naked choke, her arms tightening like steel cables. Vasily thrashed, his face purpling. For one terrifying second, Maya thought he wouldn't tap. Then, pat pat pat. The ref pried her off. The crowd went wild. Maya stood, her chest heaving, as the announcer bellowed her name. She barely heard it. Her attention was fixed on the front row, where a man in an impeccably tailored suit watched her with a small, satisfied smile. And beside him, Derek Langley cracked his knuckles, his eyes burning with promise. The roar of the crowd faded to a dull hum in Maya's ears as she stepped out of the ring, her muscles singing with adrenaline. Sweat dripped down her temples, her breath still coming in controlled bursts despite the exertion. Vasily had been strong, but sloppy, predictable. The real challenge was still coming. Ethan pushed through the crowd to meet her at the edge of the fighter's area, his face pale under the dim industrial lights. "You okay?" Maya wiped her forearm across her brow. "Fine. That guy had 50 pounds on you easy." 53, Maya corrected absently, her gaze flicking past Ethan to where Derek Langley stood with his back against the far wall, watching her with a smirk. He'd been waiting for this. She could see it in the way his fingers flexed at his sides, the way his shoulders rolled in anticipation. Ethan followed her line of sight and grimaced. "Maya, you don't have to do this. We can leave." Maya shook her head. "Not yet." Before Ethan could argue, a shadow fell over them. The man in the tailored suit stood at Maya's elbow, his presence commanding enough that the surrounding crowd instinctively gave him space. Up close, he was older than she'd first thought, maybe late 40s, with silver threading through his dark hair and a scar that bisected his left eyebrow. "Maya Carter," he said, his voice smooth and cultured. "I've heard a lot about you." Maya didn't offer her hand. "From who?" The man smiled, the expression not quite reaching his eyes. "From people who know talent when they see it." He reached into his breast pocket and produced a business card, black with silver embossing, just like the invitation. "Victor Cross. I own the Eclipse Club." Maya didn't take the card. "What do you want?" Victor's smile widened. "To make you an offer." #### the proposition. Victor led them to a private lounge at the back of the mill, a soundproof space with leather couches and a fully stocked bar. Ethan hovered near the door, his posture tense, while Maya took the seat across from Victor without hesitation. Victor poured himself a drink, whiskey, neat, before speaking. "You fight like someone with training," he said, studying her over the rim of his glass. "But not just dojo training. Military." Maya kept her expression neutral. "My father's a Marine." "Ah." Victor nodded as if that explained everything. "That accounts for the efficiency. No wasted movement. No flash." He set his glass down. "I could use someone like you." Ethan shifted by the door. "For what?" Victor ignored him, his focus entirely on Maya. "There's a tournament next month. Invitation only. High stakes. The kind of event that could set you up for life." Maya leaned back in her chair. "What's the catch?" "No catch." Victor spread his hands. "Just a contract. You fight for me, under my banner, and I take care of everything else." Maya studied his face, the sharp cut of his jaw, the way his fingers tapped rhythmlessly against his knee. There was something beneath the polished exterior, something jagged and dangerous. "And if I say no?" Victor's smile didn't waver. "Then you walk away. No hard feelings." But the way his eyes flicked toward the door, toward where Derek still lurked, told Maya everything she needed to know. #### the trap. The fight with Derek was inevitable. Maya felt it the moment she stepped back into the main hall, the energy in the room shifting like a storm front moving in. The crowd had thinned slightly, the spectators clustering closer to the ring as the next match was announced. Derek intercepted her near the fighter's entrance, his massive frame blocking her path. "Running away already, Carter?" Maya didn't break stride. She stepped around him as if he were furniture. "Not interested, Langley." Derek's hand shot out, clamping around her bicep hard enough to bruise. "You don't get to walk away from me." Maya looked down at his grip, then back up at his face. "Let go." Derek's smile was all teeth. "Make me." The crowd around them had gone quiet, watching with bated breath. Ethan hovered at the periphery, his fists clenched but his expression uncertain. Maya exhaled slowly. Then she moved. Her free hand shot up, fingers pressing into the pressure point just above Derek's wrist. His grip spasmed open on instinct, and Maya twisted away, putting space between them. Derek's face darkened. "You little..." The announcer's voice crackled over the speakers. "Next up, Derek Langley versus Maya Carter." The crowd erupted. Derek's smirk returned, slow and vicious. "Guess it's my lucky night." Maya didn't respond. She turned toward the ring, rolling her shoulders as she walked. Ethan caught her arm at the steps. "Maya, you don't have to do this." Maya met his gaze. "Yes, I do." Hashtag the fight. The bell rang. Derek came at her like a bull, his fists swinging in wide, powerful arcs. Maya dodged the first two strikes, weaving under his guard, but the third clipped her shoulder, sending a jolt of pain down her arm. The crowd roared. Derek pressed his advantage, driving her back toward the ropes. Maya could see the strategy in his movements. He wanted to corner her, to use his size and strength to overwhelm her. So she let him. Maya backed into the ropes, letting Derek think he had her trapped. His grin widened as he reared back for a knockout punch. Maya dropped. Derek's fist sailed over her head, his momentum carrying him forward. Maya pivoted on her heel, driving her elbow into his kidney with enough force to make him grunt. Derek staggered, and Maya followed up with a spinning back kick that sent him crashing into the turnbuckle. The crowd lost their minds. Derek pushed off the ropes, his face twisted in rage. Blood trickled from his nose, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "You're dead, Carter." Maya settled back into her stance. "Try harder." Derek charged. This time, Maya didn't dodge. She met him head-on, her forearm blocking his punch as her other hand shot forward in a palm strike that connected squarely with his chin. Derek's head snapped back, his eyes rolling for a split second before he shook it off. Maya didn't let up. She feinted left, then swept his legs out from under him with a low kick. Derek hit the mat hard, the impact reverberating through the ring. Before he could recover, Maya locked in an armbar, hyperextending his elbow just shy of breaking. Derek's face contorted in pain, his free hand slapping the mat in frantic surrender. The ref called it. The crowd exploded. Maya released the hold and stood, her chest heaving. Derek rolled onto his back, clutching his arm, his expression a mix of fury and disbelief. Victor's voice carried over the noise, smooth and amused. "I'll take that as your answer, Ms. Carter." Maya didn't look at him. She stepped out of the ring, her gaze locked on Ethan's relieved expression as he pushed through the crowd to meet her. "Let's go," she said. They left to the sound of Derek's enraged screams and Victor's quiet laughter. The adrenaline from the fight lasted until Maya stepped outside. The cold night air hit her sweat-damp skin like a slap, sending a shiver down her spine. The parking lot was nearly empty now, just a few stragglers lingering by their cars, their laughter carrying through the darkness. Ethan kept glancing over his shoulder as they walked, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "That guy, Victor, he's not just some club owner." Maya flexed her fingers, working out the stiffness from the fight. "I know. You don't seem worried." Maya didn't answer. She was worried, but fear was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. A shadow detached itself from the alley beside the mill, resolving into a tall figure leaning against a sleek black sedan. Victor Cross straightened as they approached, his suit jacket now replaced by a long overcoat that made him look even more imposing. "I thought we might talk," he said, his voice carrying easily across the empty lot. "Without the audience." Ethan stiffened beside her. Maya put a hand on his arm before he could speak. "Go wait in the car." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Maya! Asterisk go. Asterisk." He hesitated, then turned and walked away, shooting one last glare at Victor over his shoulder. Victor watched him go with mild amusement. "Loyal friend. That's rare." Maya crossed her arms. "What do you want?" Victor reached into his coat and produced a silver cigarette case. He took his time lighting one, the flame casting sharp shadows across his face. "You turned down my offer. I'm not interested in fighting for you." Victor exhaled a thin stream of smoke. "See, that's what confuses me. A girl with your skills, your background. You could have your pick of dojos, sponsorships, trainers. Instead, you're here, fighting in back alleys and abandoned mills." He tilted his head. "Why?" Maya's fingers twitched at her sides. "I don't owe you an explanation." Victor smiled. "No, you don't. But I think I know anyway." He took another drag. "You're not just fighting to win. You're fighting to prove something. To yourself. To your father. He flicked ash onto the pavement. To the people who think they can break you. Maya's pulse kicked up. You don't know anything about me. I know more than you think. Victor dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his heel. I know your mother left when you were 6. I know your father moved you 5 times in as many years trying to outrun his own demons. I know you've been training since you could walk, and that the only time you feel in control is when you're in that ring. Maya's breath came faster. How? Victor waved a hand. It's my business to know things. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Here's what else I know. That fight tonight? It was just the beginning. Derek Langley comes from a family that doesn't take humiliation lightly. And Victor Cross. His smile turned sharp. I don't take no for an answer. A car engine roared to life nearby, headlights cutting through the darkness. Ethan had pulled up to the curb. The passenger window rolled down. His expression was tense. Victor didn't even glance his way. Think about my offer, Maya. I'll be in touch. He turned and walked back to his sedan, leaving Maya standing in the cold, her hands clenched into fists. #### the drive home. Ethan didn't speak until they were halfway back to town. What did he say to you? Maya stared out the window at the passing streetlights. Nothing important. Ethan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Maya, that guy is dangerous. I did some digging after we got the invites. The Eclipse Club isn't just some underground fight ring. It's a front. Victor Cross is connected to. I know, Maya interrupted. She didn't need Ethan to spell it out. She'd seen the way Victor moved, the way people reacted to him. This wasn't just about fighting. Ethan exhaled sharply. So what are we going to do? Maya watched her reflection in the window, the way the passing lights made her face appear and disappear in the glass. I'm going to train, and you're going to stay out of it. Ethan slammed on the brakes so hard the seatbelt locked across Maya's chest. He turned to face her, his eyes blazing. No, you don't get to pull that crap with me. Not after everything. Maya blinked. She'd never seen Ethan lose his cool before. Ethan ran a hand through his curls, his breathing uneven. You think I don't know what you're doing? You think I haven't noticed how you throw yourself into fights like you're trying to prove something? Like you're trying to get hurt. Maya's throat tightened. That's not. Save it. Ethan's voice dropped. I get it, okay? After what happened with my dad, He cut himself off, shaking his head. Just don't shut me out. Not now. Maya studied his face, the stubborn set of his jaw, the way his fingers tapped an uneven rhythm against the wheel. She'd underestimated him. Okay, she said quietly. Ethan nodded once and put the car back in drive. #### the warning. Maya's house was dark when they pulled up, the porch light flickering like it was about to burn out. She frowned. Her father always left the light on when she was out. Ethan killed the engine. Everything okay? Maya unbuckled her seatbelt. Wait here. She approached the house slowly, her senses on high alert. The front door was unlocked. Another red flag. Maya pushed it open silently, stepping into the darkened living room. Dad! No answer. Her pulse pounded in her ears as she moved through the house, checking each room. Empty. The kitchen light was on, a half-drunk cup of coffee still warm on the table. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. She opened the message. A photo of her father, sitting at his desk at the auto shop where he worked. The timestamp showed it had been taken an hour ago. The next message came through immediately. Asterisk, he's safe. For now. Asterisk. Maya's fingers trembled as she typed a reply. Asterisk, what do you want? Asterisk. The response was instant. Asterisk, you know what I want. Asterisk. Ethan's voice came from the doorway. Maya? What's? She turned, her face pale. They have my dad. #### the ultimatum. Victor answered on the first ring. I was wondering when you'd call. Maya's grip on the phone was tight enough to make the plastic creak. Where is he? Safe. Comfortable. Victor's voice was maddeningly calm. He'll stay that way, provided we come to an understanding. Maya closed her eyes. What do you want? The tournament. One fight. That's all. And if I say no? Victor sighed, as if disappointed by the question. Then I can't guarantee his safety. And after that? The pause was deliberate. Well, let's just say your friend Ethan has a very sick mother. It would be a shame if something happened to her medication. Maya's blood ran cold. Victor continued, his tone conversational. The tournament is in 3 weeks. You'll be there. And Maya. His voice hardened. Don't make me send another reminder. The line went dead. Ethan, who had been listening on speaker, sank onto the couch, his face ashen. What are we going to do? Maya stared at the phone in her hand, the reality of the situation settling over her like a weight. She'd been naive to think she could walk away. Naive to think any of this was about fighting. Victor Cross didn't want a fighter. He wanted a weapon. And he just made it clear he would break everyone she cared about to get one. #### the decision. Maya's father returned an hour later, unharmed but confused. He'd been held up at work, he said. Some problem with the inventory system. Maya didn't tell him about the photo. Didn't tell him about Victor's threat. She just hugged him tighter than usual and said goodnight. Upstairs in her room, she pulled out the duffel bag from under her bed and began packing. Ethan watched from the doorway. You're really going to do it? Maya didn't look up. I don't have a choice. Ethan stepped into the room and grabbed her wrist, forcing her to meet his gaze. There's always a choice. Maya yanked her arm free. Not this time. Ethan's expression hardened. Then I'm coming with you. Maya shook her head. No. You're staying here. Keeping an eye on my dad. On your mom. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but Maya cut him off. This isn't a debate, Ethan. I need to know they're safe. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Ethan exhaled sharply and nodded. Maya turned back to her packing, her movements methodical. She didn't tell Ethan the rest of her plan. Didn't tell him that she had no intention of playing Victor's game. Because Maya Carter might have been backed into a corner. But she wasn't beaten yet. 3 weeks passed in a blur of brutal training sessions and sleepless nights. Victor had moved Maya into a private training facility outside the city. A sprawling compound with state-of-the-art equipment and a rotating roster of fighters who came and went like ghosts. None of them spoke to her. None of them even met her eyes. Maya trained until her hands bled, until her muscles screamed in protest, until she collapsed onto the mats each night too exhausted to dream. Victor watched it all from the shadows, his expression unreadable. You're holding back, he said one evening as Maya sparred with one of his enforcers, a hulking man with a broken nose and a mean right hook. Maya ducked under a swing, countering with a sharp elbow to the ribs. I'm not. Victor stepped into the ring, dismissing the enforcer with a wave. He circled Maya slowly, his polished shoes whispering against the canvas. You fight like someone who's afraid of their own strength. Maya wiped sweat from her brow. I fight to win. You fight not to lose. Victor stopped in front of her. There's a difference. He reached into his pocket and tossed her a phone. Maya caught it on reflex, the screen already lit with a live feed. Her father's auto shop. Ethan's apartment. Her old high school. Insurance, Victor said mildly. In case you were thinking of running. Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. I gave you my word. Victor smiled. And I believe you. But trust is a luxury in my line of work. He left her standing there, the weight of his threat settling over her like a shroud. #### the revelation. The night before the tournament, Maya finally learned the truth. She'd been sneaking through the compound after lights out, mapping exits, when she overheard voices in Victor's office. Final adjustments to the algorithm, a man was saying. Once we have Carter's fight data, we can finalize the programming. Victor's response was too low to hear. Maya edged closer, pressing her ear to the door. Military applications are endless, the man continued. Imagine soldiers who don't hesitate, who don't feel fear. The DoD will pay billions. A chill ran down Maya's spine. This wasn't just about fighting. Victor was using the tournament to gather data, to create some kind of super soldier program. And she was his perfect test subject. She retreated silently, her mind racing. She had to get out. Had to warn someone. But Victor had made one mistake. He'd underestimated how far she'd go to protect the people she loved. Hashtag the tournament. The arena was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. It looked more like a surgical theater than a fighting ring. A raised platform surrounded by banks of monitors and equipment, with observers in lab coats taking notes. The spectators here were different too. Men in military uniforms, executives in tailored suits. No cheering crowd. Just cold, clinical observation. Victor met her at the entrance, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. "Remember why you're here?" Maya didn't respond. She'd spent the last 3 weeks studying Victor's patterns, his routines. She knew exactly where his men were stationed, knew exactly when the shift changes occurred, and she knew Victor kept a pistol in his left desk drawer. The first fight was over in minutes. Maya's opponent, a former Marine with a shaved head and dead eyes, went down hard after a well-placed knee to the solar plexus. The observers murmured appreciatively, scribbling notes. The second fight lasted longer. This opponent knew her style, anticipated her moves. Maya took a brutal punch to the ribs that left her gasping, but she countered with a spinning kick that shattered his collarbone. Victor watched from the sidelines, his smile growing with each victory. Then came the final match. Derek Langley stepped into the ring, his massive frame even more imposing under the harsh lights. His nose had been reset since their last fight, his knuckles taped and ready. "Been waiting for this," he growled. Maya settled into her stance. "Let's not disappoint them." The bell rang. Hashtag the escape. Maya let Derek come at her, absorbing his punches, letting him think he had the upper hand. She needed this to look convincing. Derek's fist connected with her jaw, sending stars across her vision. Maya staggered back, blood filling her mouth. The observers leaned forward, fascinated. Then she struck. A palm strike to Derek's nose. A knee to his gut. A spinning elbow that sent him crashing to the mat. The room erupted in applause. Victor stepped forward, his face alight with triumph. "Perfect." Maya wiped blood from her lip. Not quite. She moved. One moment she was in the ring. The next, she'd vaulted over the ropes and snatched the pistol from Victor's desk. Chaos erupted. Maya fired twice into the ceiling. "Everyone down. Now." Victor's men froze. The observers scrambled for cover. Victor himself just smiled. "You won't shoot me." Maya leveled the gun at his chest. "Try me." She backed toward the exit, keeping the weapon trained on Victor. "The police are on their way. Your little operation is finished." Victor's smile never wavered. "You forget, I own the police." Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. Not this time. She'd spent her last free night hacking into Victor's files, sending evidence to every major news outlet, calling in favors from her father's old Marine contacts. Victor's expression darkened as the sound of sirens cut through the night. Maya took her chance and ran. Hashtag the aftermath. The news broke at dawn. Victor Cross arrested. His operation exposed. The military contracts suspended pending investigation. Maya watched it all from her father's living room, her ribs bandaged, her knuckles bruised. Ethan sat beside her, his knee bouncing nervously. "You think he'll stay in jail?" Maya thought of Victor's smile, his unshakable confidence. No, but it didn't matter. She'd bought them time. Her father entered with 3 mugs of hot chocolate, his face grim but proud. "You did good, kid." Maya accepted the mug, letting the warmth seep into her fingers. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall. Hashtag epilogue. The letter arrived a month later. Maya found it in the mailbox, a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single black card, embossed with silver lettering. Asterisk, until next time. Asterisk. She burned it in the driveway, watching the flames curl the edges to ash. Then she went inside, where Ethan and her father were arguing over a chessboard, and closed the door.